Yes, I did. Hey,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
You too. What's
Well, it's raining, pouring down rain in Florida here right now. How's your weather?
we're actually pretty good today. We're getting a little warmer. It's been in like minus the last couple days, but it's finally getting like we're like in Fahrenheit we're like 50 degrees today. So that's bikini weather.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, what are you doing to keep yourself busy right now?
I mean, just obviously there's a lot of back end things going on. Yesterday I was on the call with the tour for about 2 hours with the ATP. So a lot of stuff like that going on, trying to figure this out and see where we land up, which will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah.
crazy times. So tell me, you've officially canceled?
Montreal is postponed. So
Okay,
the women's event will be in Montreal next year.
okay.
Toronto, we're still hoping, to see what can happen with Toronto. So we haven't made a decision yet. So we're planning on running it, but obviously mindful that, there's a lot of factors before we can run it.
Okay. And why has Montreal been canceled?
The government there has said that they won't allow, crowds over, I can't remember the exact number, but 150 or something like that. So all of the major sporting events have been canceled there or postponed until the end, till further notice.
I mean, you've had a lot in your plate since this was an Olympic year. So how do you manage that when it's an Olympic year and running your event?
Olympic year, there can be, it can be a positive or a negative. For us, we viewed this year as a real positive because of our athletes, the Biancas, the Felix, the Dennises, in Vasek and doubles, they could medal or win a gold medal. So it could be a real enhancement for Canadian pride for our event. So we're really embracing it. Daniel Nestor was hired by the Olympic Committee to coach the doubles to help them on the tour to better our chances. So we were actually really looking forward to it this year. And then unfortunately, Corona came up and we were looking forward to next year.
I mean, I was so thankful I got to meet you last year in Toronto as my player. Got into qualifying at the last minute, and then she ended
Yeah.
up qualifying and having a great win in the first round, beating Mardik. And I got to meet you, and you're so incredible. You were so nice. And obviously, I played many years ago in Toronto and Montreal, and it was one of
Yeah.
my favorite tournaments. And so then to be able to come back all these years later, like 20 years later, and
Yeah.
to still be my favorite tournament is pretty incredible. So
Well,
I,
you have to make sure that you tell whoever's viewing that I wasn't there 20 years ago.
I know, but I mean, it's incredible the history of your tournament, and
Yeah, it's great.
you've made it just like even so much bigger and better, and everybody loves you. Like whenever I mention you, that they love you, and
Yeah.
and you're just so personable. And most of the time, tournament directors aren't that way. And I feel like I can come to you and talk to you and have a normal conversation, and that you'll be honest,
Yeah.
and it's just really nice and refreshing, just as a former player and now as a coach, and I'm a parent as well. So thank you so much for just like doing great things. And obviously I have questions I want to ask you, but
Yeah.
this is my first time interviewing a tournament director, so bear with me. I've been interviewing
Okay.
coaches.
Okay. Yeah.
But go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I said just thank you for the accolades. The Rogers Cup is the third oldest tournament in the world. We're the largest 1 week event in the world. And we have just, tremendous Canadian pride behind us. We have an amazing team, really strong values. We have very good relations with the players, the agents, the coaches, etc. We're really fair. We're really honest. We don't always make the popular decision, but we make the right decision, and we explain, why we have to make that decision. I mean, I'll give you an example of that. I guess it was about 4 years ago. when Roger and Milos was kind of at the height of his popularity and his ranking, etc. And we played Milos first at night on Wednesday and Roger second. And I told the tour, okay, tomorrow we're going to do the same. And they said, no way, you can't put Roger second 2 nights in a row. And I said, yeah, we can, because Milos is our Canadian player and we want to showcase him. And they said no, and it was literally about a 2-hour meeting. And finally he said, okay, we'll do this, but you have to go and explain it to Roger. So I said, okay. So Roger came off after his match that night. It was second on, so he came off at about 11. So I went up and I congratulated him, and then he took a quick shower. He came back, and I said, okay, I just want to explain to you what happened. So he said, what are you talking about? So I said, you're going second because Milos is our home player, and I don't want to offend you, but I just want clarity. And he said, listen, I really appreciate you telling me that. He goes, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. So it was all for nothing.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Are you there? There. Um, so I mean,
Yep, I'm
you
here. I'm
you
here.
you are really, I mean, you're incredibly fair and honest, like you say, and I think like players like love that, the transparency. I think that's like one of the most important things. I mean, what are you there? It's gonna go in and out.
Yep, yeah, I'm
What
here.
I mean, what do you think, like, I mean, your secret weapon is with all this? Is it just your whole team, or is it you as a leader, or tell me about it?
I believe it's our team. Um, that's behind this, because it's a whole year preparing for each tournament. So all the decisions we make is a team collaborative effort. And if you don't agree with something, you voice it, but we make the decision as a team. But personally, I'm a people person. I want everybody to enjoy the Rogers Cup in Toronto and have a great experience. I want them to be successful. So whatever I can do to help them be successful, I'll try to do it within my means. And we want to showcase our great Canadian. We're proud to be Canadian. We're proud to have this tournament, and we want everybody to feel that.
I mean, that's what I love about you Canadians. It just seems like you're all together, you stick with each other, and it's just really nice to see. It's incredible, to tell you the truth. The experience there, obviously, if everybody's happy, then they're going to play well too, and you want great tennis. So, right? I mean, that kind
Yeah.
of like goes along it as well.
Yeah, and we're multicultural, so people do feel at home here. If whatever ethnicity you have, we have diversity here, so people can go to those different communities. And the fans really support the different groups. Like Simona Halep has a huge Romanian contingent. Grigor has a huge contingent. All the different groups support each other. So it really brings the city together and makes the players feel really special, especially the first major after Wimbledon.
Hmm.
So the players really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. And plus the food is amazing.
The food is great. We always try to work year over year to make it better, but Toronto has so many food choices. It's a great place to eat.
Yeah. Well, and plus at the courts, it's always
Yeah.
been my favorite at the courts. The courts is amazing.
Well, what people don't know is we're the only tournament, I guess, we're the only tournament that the players can eat and watch matches at the same time. So it's a unique feature that we have that a lot of, yeah, so it's something we're trying to improve every year. We try to get the food quality better.
Hmm.
What players love, we really started to add 2 years ago, sushi. So
Hmm.
every day we have like a couple 2 hours every day of sushi only. So we're always listening to what players' needs are and fans' needs are.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like, tell me a little bit of behind the scenes, and like, what do players ask for? Give me some inside scoop.
People think that players are demanding, and there's always a question of who's more demanding, the men or the women. And the truth is that neither. Tennis players are actually really, really good. They're really focused on their routines and their coaches and their trainers. So they know what they need, and they don't really need a lot from us except, practice courts is a big thing, as you know. To have enough practice courts and enough practice time is probably the most important thing for the players. Transportation is a big thing to make sure that it's on time and it's really well scheduled. Airport pickups. And then during the week, like you said, we just try to keep in touch with them every day to make sure they have the different physical needs, the health and safety things they need as well. So we're cognizant of all that. We spent a lot of money improving our health science area, which really helps the players, their massage, their cold.
Yeah. I'm sad I'm a coach because I don't get that treatment, so I miss getting the massages.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, you know what? Just tell me next year. We'll get you one.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you up on that. Where do you mostly spend your time? I mean, because the men and women are Toronto and Montreal. Do you go back and forth, or what do you do?
So the men and women used to be stagnated weeks, 1 week in Toronto, the men, the next week in Montreal, the women, and vice versa each year. And then a few years ago, we're the same week. So I only stay in Toronto. So if the men are here, I'll do the men or the women. And yeah, it's worked out great. And the tournament director in Montreal is amazing, Eugène Lapierre, and it's just a good team.
Okay, awesome. Great. Well, hopefully I'll be in Montreal, so I guess I won't see you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully you're in Montreal, but Montreal's a great city too. They've
I
got
know.
great food as well.
I know. I'm excited. I can't wait to go back. So a little bit of inside. How did you become a tournament director? Like, I've always loved, like, when I was playing, I always wanted to know, like, how do people get involved? And for me personally, now that I'm retired and I'm coaching and always looking for the future on things that I want to do. Like, I think that's why I went up to you, because I wanted to pick your brain and see how things worked. And how did you get involved and become a tournament director?
Um, I started. I was obviously not a player of your level. I played a little bit in college. I played Davis Cup. I beat a couple of decent players, top 100, but wasn't. I didn't have the ability to make a living playing tennis. So I got into coaching. Coached our Fed Cup team for Canada and coached some players. And then the new CEO of Tennis Canada came in, and I met with him, and we were just talking tennis for about 3 hours. And I said, I have a lot of ideas. I'd really like to help. And then approximately about a year later, he called me and he said, our tournament director's leaving. Are you interested in the position? And I said, of course. And that was 14 years ago. So I've been doing it ever since. This year is a really tough year. Obviously it's the toughest year we've ever had. It's a really disappointing year because we had so much momentum after Bianca winning our tournament last year and the rise, of Felix and Dennis and Davis Cup. So it's sad, but we'll try to make it happen in Toronto if we can this summer, and if not, we'll do it next year.
Yeah, I mean, the boys are playing so well. I mean, they were playing great in Australia, right? I mean, so you
Yeah.
did have a lot of momentum.
And Fernandez was coming on this year too, in
Layla
February and March, she was starting to do well.
played
Nobody
well in Fed
expected
Cup.
her to, yeah, nobody expected her to do that well. In February, March, she beat Bencic and Sloane Stevens. So she was really hot, and it was looking to be such an unbelievable year. But listen, these things happen. It's unfortunate. Tennis is, to be honest, a back burner to the rest of life. There's a lot of people that are really struggling. So, let's think of all those people out there and the frontline people, the work they're doing. So there's more important things than a tennis tournament right now.
Absolutely, but it's still really fun. It's great therapy for people to still stay in the game and to go out and hit balls. So I mean, mental health is important. I know
Of
that
course.
when I don't go on the court and I don't hit, like, I feel off that day mentally, just because I'm used to that therapy of hitting balls.
Yeah.
So the game is really important as well.
Oh, you can see on social media, you know, all the different tips people are giving and tricks and all those things. It's really more important than people realize to their, you know, mental health and their enjoyment.
Hmm.
So let's get back to tennis hopefully soon and
Yeah.
safely, and we'll make the game better than it ever was before.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And speaking of Layla, I mean, she's a firecracker. She's going to be a great player. She's really focused, and you have a really bright future for Canada.
Yeah, she won the French Open Junior last year and really kind of came on the scene. Nobody really expected her to do the rise and make the progress she's made so fast, beating Bencic and Sloane, and was really looking to kind of make a move. She's under a slight build. She's kind of a precision player.
Yes.
So, yeah, but she's really hungry, really determined, bright future for her.
And she's a sweet girl too. Really, really sweet
She's
girl.
Canadian. We're all sweet.
Okay. I have a question. So tell me, what is the Are you there? Hello?
You know, it's actually, to be honest, it's after such a long time, it's things like this, you know, the things you can't control. So, you know, obviously this is the biggest one we've had, but you know, weather is really creates havoc. In 2012, we had 100% rain for 4 days in a row was the prediction, and we lost one day, and we almost lost the end of the tournament. So those things are the really hard ones to figure out. The rest of the operations of the tournament is pretty linear. You get to understand it, and you have a team that does you know, all of their priorities. So that part's pretty easy.
Yeah, so I mean, your ticket sales are just always. I mean, the place was packed. So what? Why? I mean, what is your secret to that and getting people out to come and watch the event?
You know, we have a great sales team. Number one, though, is that, you know, I think the women's game is back. It really started to come back the second half of last year. There's a lot of really exciting young players that I think are coming up. So I think the women's game is in really good shape because, you know, we've actually been talking about it for years. You know, what happens when Serena retires and Venus retires and Maria retires, which is all happening now. So I think this new wave of the Bencic, the Biancas, you know, Svitolinas, all these younger players
Coco
are coming
Gauff,
up. Yep, Goff, all these
Nova.
players. Yeah. So I think the game is in really good shape in that regard. So number one, the players are amazing. The Federer, Nadal. So we get the top players to our tournament. So that helps a lot. Number
Yes.
two is Toronto and Montreal have a huge, passionate tennis community. So
Okay.
they love tennis. There's a lot of tennis clubs in both cities. So those
Okay.
people like to come out to watch it. And I think the Canadians now, so what's happened is that the Canadians have helped penetrate the social fabric of Canada. So the ones that weren't tennis fans and didn't pay attention, because the Canadians are doing well, they're getting so much press that they're interested now to come out and watch. So it's really helped, you know, another 20-30%.
Yeah, I mean it, and I mean, yeah, I was just in Saguenay last year,
Hmm.
um, and for the 60K, and I was so impressed with how many people. I mean, it's a small town, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they brought in, bus loads of, school kids coming in on the school bus to come and watch. And I was really impressed by that because you don't see that at tournaments and really like pushing the kids to come and watch the sport. So I think that's an amazing job. That takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, you know, the Quebec, it's interesting, is has much of a European flair with the French influence, and tennis is the number two or number three sport in Quebec. So they really support their tennis there. National Bank is our presenting sponsor. You know, they love tennis, so it's a really big part of Quebec tennis.
Yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed the tournament. They did an incredible job, and then we came over to Toronto and played right there at the main site. So
Yeah.
Francesca won that tournament, so it was even better.
Oh, great, 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 great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me. And it's
My
a real
pleasure. Yeah, great seeing you. Stay safe in Florida.
let me
And go
let
ahead.
me ask if anybody has any questions. You know, I'd like for some people to ask some questions, but see if anybody will. Do you care if you
I
ask a
I
question?
have I have one great Rogers Cup story if you're
Okay, tell
interested.
me.
So it was back in 2008. I think it was 2008. We had Roger, Rafa, Andy, and Novak in the semifinals, and Rafa won the tournament that year. And right after the match, he went down to the locker room. I was running up to the third floor of the stadium, and I saw a guy in a wheelchair with another gentleman pushing him. And they said, "Hey, Mr. Hill, can we talk to you?" So I said, "Sure." So I went over. They brought out a picture, and they said, "We're huge Rafa fans, and can you get Rafa to sign this?" So I said, "You know what? Unfortunately, right now I can't because I had to do too many things." So I ran past them, and my conscience got the best of me. So I turned around and I went back. So I said, "Okay, how long are you going to be here?" They said, "We'll wait whatever you want." So I said, "Okay, let me see what I can do." So I ran down, even though I had a bunch of things to do, and I saw Rafa. I said, "Rafa," I said, "there's a gentleman upstairs in a wheelchair, and he's a huge fan, and he wants you to sign the racket, the picture." So he said, "Why is he in a wheelchair?" And I said, "I think it was like a diving accident or something like that." And the team was like, "Oh, that's awful." And I said, "He's young. He's like 19 years old or something like that." So Rafa said, "Carl said, go get him and bring him into the locker room." So I said, "Okay." So I ran back up the three stairs. So I said, "Hey, come with me." And they're like, "Where are we going?" I said, "Don't worry, just come with me." So I brought him all the way down to the locker room, and Rafa signed and gave him a racket and it was to see the expression on his face was worth everything for a tournament director, because that's what it's all about, and it's a testament to our sport
Yeah.
that we're women and gentlemen, and we always do kind things like that. And that's just one story, but there's so many like that over the years.
Well, let's hear them. I want to hear them. We have time.
Oh boy.
Come on.
What's another good one? Well, Serena's always always really helpful with our corporate partners and our tournaments, and always asking, can she help do more? Last year was really tricky because last year, so this is a bit of inside information, and I hope nobody shares this or I'll get in trouble. But last year, so before the match, Serena said, "Carl, I'm not sure I can play." So I was like, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" And I knew she was on medication because she had a really bad neck from like 2 or 3 days before, and it kept getting worse. And everybody's had a stiff neck, but if you're playing a tournament and you can't turn your neck, you just can't play.
Yeah.
So she said, "Let me go and hit, and I'll check." So I went and watched her warm up, and she came off. I said, "How do you feel?" And she said, "Not great." And so then I went back and I told our team, and they were like, "Oh my gosh," because the financial ramifications are tremendous.
Yeah.
And so they said, "Should we tell Bianca?" And I said, "No, like, it's not the right thing to tell Bianca, and also it'll confuse her, if you tell her like before the match." So then I went and I talked to Serena, and her coach was there, Patrick and Jill, and I said, "Okay, listen, I'm the tournament director, but we want what's best for you. I would never tell you to go out there and injure yourself. We want you to win the U.S. Open. We're good partners, so that's where we're coming from." And and she was on the training table. So then I said, "Okay, make your decision. I'm leaving." And I walked out the door. And then I came back. Jill called me back and said she's going to go out and give it a go. And she went out, and unfortunately she couldn't finish the match. But it just shows what spirit she had. She went and did the best she could for, I think it was 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
But it's just nice that she actually made the effort, and it wasn't, I didn't push her. She just tried to do it on her own.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and people always wonder, okay, well, why did she go out and do that and then retire? So they don't always know the all the ins and outs and what's really going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I took her. We built a school together in Jamaica. I guess it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So
Okay.
I've gotten to become pretty good friends with her, and we went to Jamaica. I built schools in Jamaica with Helping Hands Jamaica Foundation.
Okay.
So we built 25 schools, and she heard about it 3 or 4 years ago and said she wants to come and build a school with us. And she came down in February of 17, I think it was. And we went down for 4 or 5 days and built a school in her name. And it was a great experience. And for her to do it, what it did for our foundation, it helped us build, I think, another 7 schools because people got interested in it.
Wow.
So we got new partners and things like that. So, players like her and Rafa, they do so much beyond the sport that people don't realize.
Yeah, I mean, the stories are incredible. I mean, for Rafa to do that, that's amazing. What other? Tell me, because someone said you have the best story. So
Oh, but I'll get in too much trouble with some of them. But no, they're just. I think if you treat, as we all know, if you treat people with respect and honesty and integrity, it'll be reciprocated. And I've always tried to do that with all of the players and also their agents. We
mhm.
do things the right way. We include the player if we have a negotiation or a signing, just things that involve the player. We don't try to go around the agents. We include them, and it's all a part of you're a part of an ecosystem, in
Yeah.
tennis. So our reputation is really important to us, and we try to make sure that we keep that high standard at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was more transparency on like the things that you're talking about. I just feel like sometimes there isn't, and I think that's what sets you apart. So maybe people can keep learning from you.
Yeah, but I do think the tour is in a lot of trouble now.
Okay.
I do think that if we if we stay in this crisis, and it looks that way for a long period of time, it's going to affect from junior development all the way to 1,000 Master Series and Grand Slam events. And um, for example, with the shutting of the economy, that corporate partners are just not going to be at the table next year. So a lot of federations that have tournaments that are supported by the government, they won't get the same amount of support. So we'll probably lose some events next year. Federations that get corporate partners won't be able to run their junior ITFs or their futures, men's and women's and challengers that they support. Some of them will have to go away. I think prize money is going to be impacted for the players because everybody's going to be impacted and have to take a reset. So the longer we're in this, the tougher it's going to be. But we're a global sport as well, so it makes it even tougher for travel and quarantining and those type of things. So the good news is that the ATP and WTA have really strong leadership. The players council understands, the situation, and we'll be poised to get out of this in really good shape. But there's going to be some pain over the next 2 years for sure.
So, a couple of questions. I mean, do you have any strategies in place for when this all goes down? For the corporate sponsors not to be able to come to the table. I mean, what is your strategy? What are you thinking?
Well, right now our sponsorship, our corporate partners are really holding solid. They understand the situation, and also everybody has some agreements in place. So I think the issue is going to be new partners. So people that are finishing their agreements this year, it's going to
Okay.
be very difficult. So most tournaments really depend on a title sponsor. So the ones that don't have a title sponsor next year are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Right.
So that's and then if you know you always have other sponsors that you need as well to fill out the different categories. There'll
Mm-hmm.
be less of them to do that. So you know a lot of these companies, as we know, are laying off people, and they don't want to. They don't want to be perceived as sponsoring events when they're laying off thousands of people.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. So what do you think about like what Roger has been speaking out about, Roger and Rafa, about about the men and women coming together?
Yeah, I mean it's complicated. I think it's the right thing to do. I
You
think
do?
it's a really good idea. I mean, we should be under one umbrella, but you know, to do it, it would take years to get it done because there's already all these different agreements and media and you know the year-end championships, those type of things. But if both parties are willing to step up, you know, hopefully something can be done. The worst case scenario, I think the the organizations can share synergies. You know, their marketing, their communications, you know, their sales teams, so they can kind of shave costs that way and help. You know, bring it. It'll become the worst case scenario. It'll become much closer together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're really going to see everybody coming together a lot more than even ever before. So it's kind of exciting in some ways because we all need each other.
Yeah, I think one it should. I mean, everybody's talked about it for, you know, since he played the Rogers Cup 20 years ago, everybody's been talking about it. So I think it should happen. But the other thing is that it might become a necessity because
Right.
there might be so much pain the longer that we have to do that to come out of this in good shape.
Gotcha. So, I mean, what do you think about, I mean, how many players that like the tours are supporting? How do you feel about that? Like, what is your thoughts?
About supporting the players?
Like how many players, like professional players that we're supporting across the world, like where the rankings are? I know like the ITF wanted to try to trim it down. How do you feel about that?
So are you saying like the players from 100 to 400, that issue?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so it's that's really tough. It's a really tough one, but they do need help, like everybody does. You know, the question is where does the help come from, and how much is it? You know, I think it's nice to help them because everybody needs help, whatever it is. If it's 5,000, 10,000, you know, they do need help coming back. You know, those are some of the issues. You know, the players won't have the support from their federations and their private partners like they did before. So a lot of these players that are, you know, 100 at making a living, but you know, 200 down, a lot of those players are going to lose their support. How are they going to keep playing? And there's going to be a lot less tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, some guys, you know, they're getting normal jobs and, you know, doing Uber Eats or doing stuff like that just to try to
Mm.
stay alive right now.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
obviously not practicing, they're not hitting tennis balls and you know, they're going to lose their game and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, people that have the means, you know, it's a good time to get out there and, you know, maybe you create a team that you support or something of that effect. So there are opportunities to get involved in the game that weren't there before because
Mm-hmm.
players are more willing.
Yeah.
So people should start looking at that, you know, if it's in their local area or their country or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some opportunities in that way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just affecting obviously ball sales and racket sales and shoe sales. I mean, it's the whole industry is going to be a massive hit. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think it's going to be a a tough haul, you know.
Even for coaches, I mean, the like for myself, I'm a private coach, right?
Yeah,
So, um, it's wow, yeah. So,
yeah,
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, you went to Necker Cup. Tell me a little bit about that event.
What happens in Necker stays in Necker.
Okay, but I mean, like, okay,
Uh,
is it for
it's
charity? What is it
Yeah,
exactly?
it's a charity event, and it's Richard Branson's event, run by two gentlemen out of Atlanta. Trevor Short uh, kind of leads the way with it. It's a great event. You know, it's Rafa, Novak, Navratilova, Borg. You know, the who's who of tennis have played it. It's the most spectacular setting I've ever seen, and it's a great. It's just an amazing. It's a 4 or 5 day event. You know, they have musical acts. They had Sean Paul. They had Kenny Chesney. You know, Florida Georgia Line they had this year. So it's just an amazing event with you know, I'm just a regular guy, and the first year I went, you know, I was a little intimidated because it's famous tennis players and billionaires, but once you start talking to them, they're just regular people and they're really nice. And Richard is just a fascinating human being. He's having a really difficult time right now with his airlines because they're not getting support. So he's in a lot of trouble with that, and doing his best to try to get out of it.
Wow. Wow. I mean, there's still flights like they're, I mean, every day to London, right? I mean, there's a lot of flights still happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't been checking it, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just everybody's having it tough. I don't think the Necker Cup will run this year. It might, but uh, they're going to have, like everybody else, you know, the travel restrictions and all of those things. You know, the Caribbean's getting really hard hit, so we'll see. But the event is by far the best tennis pro-am ever. Like it's
I gotta get invited to this.
oh, it's you have to. It's just really special, you know.
I gotta get more big time like you.
No. You just have to learn to play beach tennis.
I can do that.
Okay, good,
Yeah. I
good.
mean, I had a win over Navratilova, you know, so
That's pretty good.
I had
That's really
five.
you had a lot of good wins. That's just one of them. What do you
Yeah,
mean? You know,
yeah, I
and you're
did.
still really good.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Francesca keeps me in shape. She always wants to hit with me. So that helps.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you have a player like that, you got to keep fit. You know.
Yeah, I mean I am. I'm you know, I try to lift every day and keep my form and I think it's really important.
Of
So,
course, of course.
yeah.
How do you think coaches will be affected?
Like I said, I mean, I think it's really scary times for coaches. I mean, I'm lucky I'm married and I have a husband that is the main breadwinner. But if it was vice versa, and you know, I was a male coach and I'm supporting my family, I think it's really stressful times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you're looking, you know, the best case scenario, you finish off this year piecing it together. I mean, it won't be you know, full tour in my opinion. It'll be dribs and drabs, the best case scenario. So, you know, and players don't have the money to pay for the coaches as they had before, or the trainers too. You know, there's
Yeah.
another group that'll be hit. So, yeah, it's a tough time.
I mean, the only thing is that people aren't spending as much money going out to dinner. They're not traveling, going anywhere. So your expenses are definitely cut, right?
Yeah,
So
but that helps a little bit, but you still need that, you know, you have no revenue at all. So,
yeah, I know, but exactly. So it. Hopefully everything gets back in order soon. I'm
yeah.
hoping. You
Let's
know.
hope, and let's just hope everybody's safe. I apologize. I have to run on a call here.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for having me. Always great to see you. Stay safe. Say hi to everybody in Saddlebrook. I know you saw Craig Boynton. I love him. He's a really good guy and somebody I really respect and admire. So please say hello to him and everybody down there for me.
I will. Thank you so much for your time today. I
Okay.
really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.